So just before anybody starts covering this story in the mainstream media, I wanted to make sure that my stance is clear, that I do not support the Proud Boys or any other radical activist group. I am simply contacting them to ask if they're interested in being interviewed for purely journalistic purposes. Hello, my friends, and welcome to an emergency episode of Predators. We were not expecting to record an episode of the Predators podcast today, but here we are. So, the news story of the day, this is from NBC News. Rick and Morty co-creator Justin Roiland faces felony domestic violence charges. It is a wild accusation. It is a very interesting story. So let's go through this, and let's go through some of the allegations on Twitter as well.
Let's dive straight into this, and let's dive straight into this, guys. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And anybody who listens to our show knows that we are all about evidence. We do not assume guilt until the evidence is shown. Innocent until proven guilty is important.
But this is looking pretty dicey here.
Yeah.
So let's go past the major headlines and read what is written.
Let's do it. All right.
Let's do it.
Here's what it says. Roiland was charged with domestic battery and false imprisonment in May of 2020 after an incident with a woman he was dating, according to a criminal complaint. 2020? Oh, I thought this was recent. Justin Roiland, Justin Roiland, the star and co-creator of the animated comedy series Rick and Morty, has been charged with felony domestic violence in Orange County, California, in connection with a 2020 incident, according to a criminal complaint filed in May of 2020 by the Orange County District Attorney. He appeared in court Thursday for a pre-trial hearing.
Okay.
Roiland pleaded not guilty in 2020. In a statement, one of Roiland's attorneys wrote that his client is innocent and he expects the case will be dismissed. Well, makes sense that his attorney would say that, but still.
Okay.
We look forward to clearing Justin's name and helping him move forward as swiftly as possible, says attorney T. Edward Welburn. NBC News obtained the criminal complaint in the case, which charges Roiland, 42, with one felony count of domestic battery with corporal injury and one felony count of false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, and or deceit. NBC News is the first to report publicly on the case. The complaint states that the incident occurred on or about January 19th of 2020 against an anonymous Jane Doe who was dating Roiland at the time. According to Orange County Superior Court records, Roiland pleaded not guilty to both charges in October of 2020. Since then, the case has been the subject of more than a dozen court hearings, including pretrial hearings. A trial date is not currently set. Many court records remained sealed, but the publicly available documents seen by NBC News say Roiland was charged in May of 2020. Roiland was arrested and released on a $50,000 bond in August of 2020 and arraigned in October of 2020.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so we got a couple of things to analyze here. Obviously, there's going to be more information about this case as the trial period continues. They're saying here that there's not really a lot of publicly available information, but there's a couple of things that we can garner from this, okay?
Yes.
It's serious enough that there have been a dozen court hearings so far. That's pretty serious. They wouldn't do a dozen court hearings if there was nothing at all to look at. In addition, to play devil's advocate for a moment, a $50,000 bond, especially for a rich person, Justin Roiland has millions of dollars, $50,000 bond is not really that big of a bond, especially for Orange County.
No.
So, on the one hand, serious enough to warrant 12 hearings.
Yep.
And yet not serious enough to put a large enough bond to actually keep him in prison. Very strange.
Well, the thing with these kinds of cases that we've gone over before is usually, and just because there's a lot of hearings plus the low bond means that there's more going on underneath the hood that we're not privy to information-wise. So
right.
More information will come out.
Right. Let's see if there's any more information here that we can learn from. It says a protective order was filed in October of 2020, documented in the court minutes, said Roiland is not to harass, threaten, or surveil the person named in the protective order who is not known to NBC News. Roiland cannot go within 100 feet of the person, according to the order, which also ordered Roiland to turn in any firearms he owned or possessed. The order lasts until October of 2023, and it's not known who submitted the requests for the order. Now, again, a lot to unpack there. So,
A little bit.
on the one hand, we don't know this person's name, who's the accuser, so that is a non-issue because the court chose not to release it. So we can't make assumptions based on that, but it is possible. I hope it's not the case, but it is possible that this person is very young. So yeah, oftentimes one of the reasons why they won't release the name of a Jane Doe is, one, because the person is famous, and so they would be harassed, or two, they might be like 18, 19, and so while they technically, because it doesn't say, assault of a minor, so they weren't under the age of 18.
Yeah.
But
I'm willing to bet it's probably someone famous.
It very well could be, and but whether or not the woman in the case is famous, it makes sense that she would want to protect her identity because Rick and Morty fans have done things like, walk into a McDonald's, stand on top of the counter, and say "re" to get the nuggy sauce. I'm pretty sure that no one wants that to happen to them because they took the precious Justin Roiland away from Rick and Morty for a court case.
Yeah. Now, again, innocent until proven guilty. Let's keep reading.
Details of the case, including police body camera footage, police reports, abuse investigation reports, medical reports, and recordings of interviews, are currently being withheld from the public under a protective order. The affidavit in support of Roiland's arrest is also sealed. Interesting. So we do have police body camera footage, police reports, and abuse investigation reports, medical reports, and recordings of interviews.
Okay.
From what I'm understanding from this, it's saying that those exist. They've just not been released to the public yet. So once the case goes to a full trial, if it does, then we will be able to analyze those ourselves.
Yes, assuming it just doesn't get settled outside of court, which a lot of these cases, statistically speaking, court cases get settled out of court all the time.
Well, and I guarantee you that let's say in a hypothetical world that he is 100% innocent. Let's say in a hypothetical world. I don't know if that's the case. We are speculating here.
Yes.
Let's say that's the case. I guarantee you that the lawyers at Comedy Central and Adult Swim would far rather write a blank check to this woman than have their star, who brings the most eyeballs to Adult Swim out of any person on earth, go to trial.
Yes.
Even if he is 100% innocent.
Well, that is most likely what all of these pretrial, given that vein of explanation, 12 pretrial conversations are probably to settle this thing out of court.
Oh, yeah. Well, and here it goes on to say, during Thursday's hearing, Roiland's attorney confirmed there is a plea offer to Roiland, did not discuss details.
Yeah.
Makes sense. The brief hearing concluded a moment later with an agreement to convene again on April 27th, and Roiland was ordered to attend the hearing. Roiland is best known for Rick and Morty, which has spawned a billion-dollar media empire. Let's see. Adult Swim, Warner Brothers, and Cartoon Network have declined to comment. Okay. Over the past 3 years, as the domestic violence cases inched along, Roiland's career has progressed. He released an NFT art collection in 2021. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
I looked into it. They all sold, and they immediately tanked in value.
Well, that's NFTs for you.
I mean, it gets the people who own the NFTs rich, and they're a terrible investment. Next question.
Correct. So we have a couple more pieces of evidence that have come out on Twitter.
Yep.
So not as good of a source as NBC News, obviously. People can say anything they want to say on Twitter. But
yes, they can.
in my opinion, these are very credible allegations for several reasons. Okay. So here is the first, which is somebody who went through one of Roiland's old podcasts, and this is Roiland talking in his own words. So, Roiland is welcome to deny it or say it was deep-faked or something, but it's not. It's him talking in his podcast. So let's see what he had to say.
Let's do it.
So glad there was finally an episode last week, but I know you guys are busy. And Ryan, I'm sorry about your breakup, but if you're willing to wait 2 years, I'll be your new girlfriend. Love you guys.
Oh, she's sweet 16.
How old is she?
Holy shit.
How old is
She's
she?
supposed to be 16.
Well,
Unless she's walking to LA by foot, it's going to take 2 years.
Can I just say that, send some pictures. Because you could be, like, fat and gross.
Stop
She's
it.
got 2 years to shape up for me, Justin.
Okay, well, fine, but send some fucking... There's nothing illegal about
Listen,
a 16-year-old sending perfectly normal, clothed images to Ryan.
There's definitely something illegal about me receiving
Illegal?
them. Now that the context is
Okay, so we've listened to half of this clip. Let's just point out that Justin is the only person who wants to talk about this topic. His male co-host is going, "Whoa, dude! Whoa! Next topic, bro." And the female co-host is going, "I don't want any part of this."
Yeah, I mean, there's comedy, and then there's whatever the hell this is.
Right. It would be one thing to say something to the effect of, wouldn't it be funny if X, Y, and Z? But it sounds to me like in this clip he's saying, yeah, ask this 16-year-old to send you pictures to find out if you want to have sex on her 18th birthday. That is not okay.
Well, I mean, Justin Roiland is, 40? He grew up in a different time.
That's true.
He is a product of his time. Think Glenn Quagmire from Family Guy. He's 75 in the show, hitting on 18-year-olds, whatever.
Right. And the thing is that Glenn Quagmire, being 75 years old and hitting on 18-year-olds is not illegal. But Justin Roiland is encouraging his friend to do an illegal act, which is to send provocative photos from a 16-year-old.
He didn't say provocative. He didn't say anything.
It's implied, my dear. Let's listen to the rest of the clip.
Legal? I question that.
I'm not interested if you are... I'm not interested in if you're 18, frankly.
You know what?
However, that's me saying that now.
See. Okay. And you have Justin saying, well, yeah, let's find out if she wants to have sex in 2 years. And his co-host is going, if a person is 18, that's technically legal, but I'm not comfortable with it. And Justin continues.
Oh, in 2 years, I could be a real creepball.
No, listen, here's the thing, girl. Send Ryan some personal
do not
images.
No.
Stop it.
Just make sure that they're legal.
First
Don't
of all,
be nude
you're
and
not
fine.
interested. You're not going to be interested in me.
No, she'll love...
Justin, buddy.
Yeah?
Justin, I am highly entertained by Rick and Morty. But let's just be exceptionally clear here. Your friend said he is not interested in people who are 18 or younger. So continuing the conversation and saying, just get her to send you nude pics, it's fine. Why would you do that?
He didn't say nude pics.
He did. Let me go back and show you.
Oh.
No, listen, here's the thing, girl. Send Ryan some
do
personal
not
images.
No.
Stop it.
Just make sure that they're legal.
First
Don't
of all,
be nude.
you're
and
not
fine.
interested.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard it. It says, make sure it's legal. Don't be nude. I heard it as be nude. Sorry. So I was incorrect on that specific point.
Okay.
But still, his friend is saying, I am not interested in people who are 18.
Fair enough.
And Justin is going, yeah, 16-year-old, just send him some pics. Why would his friend want pictures of a person that he said he is not attracted to because of their age?
Well, Justin Roiland obviously isn't reading the room.
Clearly not.
He's got this ADHD fixation on the conversation at hand, which, okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, he's a comedian. He doesn't always seem to see the world right. Whatever.
Well, and to be fair, there have been many, many, many reports of things that are not illegal, but just very weird and creepy from the Rick and Morty writers' room. So, for example, Dan Harmon, the person who is the co-creator of Rick and Morty, and has been friends with Justin Roiland for, I think, decades at this point, from what I understand. What happened in the Dan Harmon incident from a few years ago while he was working on Community was Dan Harmon broke up with his girlfriend specifically for the purpose of dating a coworker. Now, the coworker had been exceptionally clear that she was not interested, found his advances creepy, and she was very honest with Dan. She said, I don't want you to act this way towards me. And in addition, it is uncomfortable when this happens because you are my boss. So I can't just say, get the fuck out of my face because you're my boss.
Well, here's the thing. To anybody who has advances from their boss, yes, you can tell them to get the fuck out of your face.
You can.
And you should.
Absolutely. And yet, Mr. Dan Harmon, the co-creator of Rick and Morty, proceeded to break up with his girlfriend and ask the woman again to date him. And thank God, she said no.
Again, you should, if you are the owner or star, do not have intercourse with your coworkers. It's not a good look for anybody.
It may not be illegal. In some cases it is, but it may not be illegal. But dude, come on. You work in Hollywood. You should know better than to harass your female coworker. Even if it is not illegal, it is a terrible look and can ruin your career permanently.
Correct. Just go find you're in Hollywood. Just go find Taylor Swift. She'll date you.
Step 1, you are a Hollywood famous person. Step 2, walk into any restaurant and say, who wants to fuck me? If the person willingly says yes, then there's no issue, Mr. Harmon.
Correct. You have fame and power.
Why would you use that fame and power to try to have sex with someone who specifically, multiple times, says, you are acting creepy, weird, and off-putting, and I don't like being in the office with you there because of these actions?
When you hit a certain level of fame, you can get anyone you want. If they say no, move on to the next one.
Well, and this is...
Take a hint from the amazing, wonderful Bugatti guy. What the fuck's his name? I've forgotten his name already. Andrew Tate. Take a hint from Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate can get any woman he wants. He doesn't waste his time. If a woman says no, he's on to the next woman.
I like how the it's very funny. It's probably true actually, but it's just a funny way to put it. The way you said it, it's like, yeah, man, if you're famous and you want to have sex, just go be a whore. It's not that difficult, Majira.
It really isn't that difficult. If they say no, just go find another woman or dude.
And to use this as an illustration for a larger point.
Yes.
Okay? This is going to be something that we talk about in this podcast, Predators. It's going to be something that we talk about a lot. Because here's what happens in these cases. Whether you are Justin Roiland, Dan Harmon, Majira Strawberry, Kiro, whoever. Okay? If you achieve some level of fame, even if that fame is 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, then there will be people who see that fame and want to do whatever you want to be close to that fame. And that gives you power over those people. And a ethical person, whether in Hollywood or YouTube or the furry fandom or whatever, an ethical person goes out of their way to make sure they do not abuse that power, to not abuse their fans, most celebrities, like let's say a Tom Hanks or somebody who's never gotten into a sex scandal, most ethical celebrities will specifically go out of their way to avoid any type of inappropriate contact with a fan. For example, Keanu Reeves, if you ever see a picture of this guy, okay? If you ever see a picture of him next to a woman, a fan specifically, if you ever see him a picture of him next to a female fan, what he will do, it's actually very funny, what he will do is he will actually put his arm around the person, but he will not touch the person. He will hover his arm over their shoulders, typically, or around their waist, but not touch them at all, so that if someone later looks at that picture, they won't go, oh, well, he was groping that fan. No. Guys, this is not a difficult thing to figure out. Don't rape your fans.
Or alternatively, you can just be like Joe Biden and, oh, I'm quirky and weird, I sniff hair, I'm Joe Biden.
Right, that is a perfect example, okay?
Joe Biden's a creep, real creep.
And people allowed him to do it for decades because he has power. Correct. And so to him, to Joe Biden, every time that he would do this bad behavior, which any objective observer says, that's creepy and weird, but because he was famous, because he was powerful, Joe Biden was allowed to do this for decades with no repercussions.
And he's still allowed to do this.
And he still got elected. Excuse me. What was that the Democratic Party was saying about Mr. Trump for, it's been almost half a decade now?
Yes.
He was creepy to women. That means he's disqualified from running for president. I agree with you. And so should Joe Biden be disqualified for the same reason.
But I'm Joe Biden. I campaigned from my secret underground basement. I am protecting the populace.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm pro-feminist, and therefore, when I sniff women's hair and make them feel uncomfortable, you should feel sorry for me.
Oh, I've got an even better one. Now that Donald Trump's out of the office and COVID's on the rise, now the Democrats can do COVID correctly.
Oh, they can.
Do it correctly this time.
Oh, how about you do all of those things that you said were so vitally important that you ruined the lives of millions of people. You ruined the education of millions of children. You, Congress, you caused approximately 50% of Americans in 2020 to have the symptoms of major depression.
Even going as far as dogs have major depression, cats have major depression, even 2-year-old children now have COVID-like major depression that they're going to have to cope with for the rest of their lives. Hey, great job! Good boy! Let's do it again!
Now, let me be exceptionally clear, okay? Because I know that my enemies will take these words out of context. So let me clarify my statement, okay? I am 100% in favor of science-based public health policies. I am 100% in favor, okay? I am in favor personally. I know you're not, which is fine. I am in favor of mandatory vaccines. I am in favor of masking. I am in favor of lockdowns in an emergency situation. But I am not in favor of completely dropping the ball on enforcement so that you taint the economy, taint children's education, taint people's mental health, and accomplished nothing.
Well, here's the thing. And here's the reasons why I'm not in favor of forced mandates, forced vaccinations, lockdowns. Because forced vaccines Have you seen Nazi Germany? Forced quarantine and forced lockdowns. Have you seen China?
Right.
Have you seen what it does? I am not in favor of any of that, and quite frankly, there is personal responsibility, but if individuals want to be personally responsible, I'm in favor of personal responsibility. But if you want to tell me that I have to wear a mask, the short answer is no. The long answer is get the fuck out of my face.
Correct. And see, here's the thing. So we have a difference of opinion on these issues, but that's not a bad thing, okay? There are about 50% of people in the United States that agree with you, and there's somewhere around 50% that agree with me, and here's the fact. America, we have to come to some consensus.
Yes.
We cannot go one way or the other or just do nothing.
It also depends on what venue you're going into. If you're going into a hospital, wearing a mask sounds reasonable. If you're walking down the street, ordering someone that they wear a mask down the street, no. The answer is no. It
Correct.
depends on venue. It depends on individual circumstances. If there's a major plague going around, maybe you should stay home instead of going to the local rave. You know, personal responsibility is one of the central tenets that this country was founded upon.
Well, and the difficult aspect of this, in my opinion, is this is my personal opinion, okay? I think that the personal responsibility aspect of it was reasonably well handled during the pandemic.
Yes.
Not perfectly well handled, but reasonably well handled. So there were many months, for example, when we as a country said, okay, we recommend masks, but obviously, because we are a free country, we're not going to force you to wear a mask.
Which is how it should be.
Right. So, as an example, okay, in places like Vietnam, what they did was just every business can make the choice, or they may have mandated it, I'm not sure. But in the United States, at the very least, I assume the way that they would do it is a business can make the choice of whether or not to require masks and a temperature check before entering the business.
That's what happened at Goodwill. And it's like, oh, we have to check your temperature, and you have to wear a mask, and we're going to fire you if you don't. I'm sorry, you want to fire me if I'm not following your inane bullshit rules?
Right. And so here's the thing. Here is the crux of this issue, which is important for everyone to understand. Okay? Either we have to all make sacrifices of personal freedom for public health.
For how long?
Let me finish. Or we have to take a full personal responsibility stance and say, okay, because we live in a society with a constitution, we're going to say it is up to the businesses, it is up to the states, and it is up to the people to make the right choice. Now, unfortunately, what we got was the worst of both worlds, which was the wrong mandates at the wrong time.
Correct.
And in addition, a widespread movement of millions of people who, specifically because of the inane Orwellian restrictions, said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to comply with what you are asking me to do. And so, unfortunately, we had the worst of both worlds.
Yes. Granted, I did eventually get the vaccine on my own terms, on my own assessment of the situation itself.
Well, and like you said, what you did was you waited to see the effectiveness and safety.
Yep.
And then chose to make your decision after seeing that.
After consulting a doctor.
Right. Which is perfectly within your right to do.
Yes.
Now, I take a different stance on vaccines, in particular because of the health...
She'll love you, and she'll cook.
In particular, because of the health conditions that I have,
Yep.
I typically will go out of my way to do extra preventative measures. So, for example, when I was a child, the chickenpox vaccine was new. So had not a lot of testing on the chickenpox vaccine at that time. But, and at that time, I was not old enough to make the decision for myself. I was like 6 years old or something.
Correct.
But my mom thought about it thoroughly, and the way that she approached it was this. Well, Neil has a brittle bone condition, and having chickenpox at 6 years old while wearing a cast would be torture.
Yes.
So even if there is a small, let's assume for the sake of argument, 0.1% risk of something happening because it's an untested vaccine.
Yep.
That, 0.1% risk is much better than the, say, 10% risk that he catches chickenpox while in a cast. Because I was in a cast like 3 months out of the year at that point because of how poorly my bones had developed. So she made the decision to weigh the options and make a compromise choice, which was, okay, it's not ideal that the vaccine has not been tested fully at this point, but because of the circumstances, it is better for him to have that tiny risk to avoid something that would be terrible for everyone involved.
Correct. Again, that is a circumstance of consulting with a doctor before making a educated decision. And I use the word educated very precisely because every vaccine is an educated decision.
Sure.
Having the hepatitis vaccine, educated decision. Not a difficult decision to make, but educated. Having tetanus shots, educated. Obviously, a tetanus shot is a educated decision, not a difficult one. A new untested vaccine, educated. If you have the option to wait, if you have the option to educate yourself on the problem, on the vaccine at hand, then by all means, it is within your God-given right to make it. And if other people are being foolish, and ignorant about the situation, saying, just get the vaccine as soon as humanly possible, well, I'm not you. You're not me. You don't know what's going on in your head. Only you do. So, for those that are trying to force the issue, by all means, tell them where to shove it.
Correct. And see, here's the thing, okay? I see a parallel between this issue and the issue of woke politics.
Yes.
Okay? So, from the way that I see it, there are many, many people, mostly my Democratic friends, but some on the right as well. But we have people who will say things like, "Oh, well, you can't say that."
Yes, I can.
You can't. That's offensive to me. You can't do that. And you know what? You know what I learned?
Yeah?
If you just go ahead and say it anyway, there's nothing they can do to stop you.
Correct. It's one of those instances where each individual person has the same power as a freight train in life.
Correct.
I have dealt with this many times online, many times in many different social circles. I have friends within those social circles. I may not be specifically welcome wholeheartedly in some of these circles, but you know what? The friends that I do have respect me and realize I am a freight train. If you're going to bring beef with me, bring an army, because your beef is more like a chicken nugget from McDonald's. It's very insubstantial.
Right. And let me point something else out to the people listening, okay? So I am running for president. I am hopefully going to be elected in 2028. We'll see. I will run as long as necessary. I will run until 2100 if I have to. But that we'll see. But here's the thing. I know that the first criticism, the very first comment in the comment section will be, "Oh, what would you do about it, huh?" Well, here's exactly what I would do, okay? You stupid idiots who, "Oh, well, what about what you would do?" Okay, here's what I would do, okay? I would go on television. I would block out every single television show. I would block out every single television channel, every single radio program, and I would say to the American people, okay, we are going to go on television, we're going to present the evidence, and you decide for yourself.
Yes.
If you hear the evidence from myself, from the doctors, from the nurses, from the patients, whatever, if you hear that evidence and you disagree and you don't think that it's right to mask, that is your decision.
Yes.
That
is your choice. It was our choice as a nation to go to war with the British.
Right.
It was our choice to say that enough was enough. Each and every one of us has the choice to decide for ourselves.
That is what the country is built on. And the fact that we currently have a media landscape where it is more profitable to cause division than it is to help find consensus in important issues is the reason why the pandemic was as bad as it was.
Yes.
There is a simple fact that either we should have all come to a consensus and worked together and done the, 2-week lockdown or whatever they said it was, and actually done a lockdown to the point where the virus would die out, or we have to say, okay, it is more important, especially to people's mental health, that the economy continues to function.
Yes.
And so we are going to put it on people's personal responsibility to protect themselves, especially if they have a special circumstance like, asthma or, autoimmune disease or something like that. Then make sure that you do extra protective steps.